Most tech house tracks have three essential elements: groovy drums, cool bass line, and vocals. But in most tracks that I hear, there's a clear disconnect between them three elements. So in this video, I'm going to take one of my mentorship clients' projects and show you some of the main mistakes he's making that you're likely making too, and show you how I would turn this into a label-worthy track. And as always, it's nearly impossible to spot the knowledge gaps in your own music. So if you would like to work with someone who can spot them knowledge gaps for you, and more importantly, how to improve them, someone who can truly promise to get you results, then check the link in the description. Let's go. So let's take a listen to the first track. Now, I do believe it's got good potential. I think the sound selection is good, but it's got what I call a confusing groove. So I'm going to point that out to you now, show you exactly what I mean by that. In these styles of track, the percussion drives the groove. We all know that in tech house, especially this more European style of tech house. So we're going to solo the main elements of the drums here. Now, I do get a tiny bit of phasing happening with this open hat, but for now, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to turn on this main perk groove that the person has obviously chopped up a loop to create. Now, when I turn that on, we have what I call not a confusing groove. You get a clear motif coming from them drums. So what I mean by motif is when I start playing, I can clearly hum the drums back. So you get a real clear sense of a groove. Boom, 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 boom. Now, watch when I start turning on the other percussion. Yes, the other percussion does fill the gaps, which a lot of people will teach, including myself. However, it does take away from that fundamental groove, doesn't it? You can no longer really hum that pattern back to us. So actually, he's made it way too overcomplicated. So then he's got another layer of percussion happening. Now we completely lost that fundamental groove. It's gone. So I'm going to spend a few minutes correcting this now, and then I'll come back to you and show you what you can do to make sure that this doesn't happen. Okay, so I've made a few changes. It only took me a few minutes. Very, very simple changes here, but make the world of difference to the overall groove of the track. Let's now start with the main percussion again. Watch as I turn on the other layers of percussion, and then I'll show you how I've done this. So let's catch the groove again first. And I'll one by one turn them on. You can hear something's changed, but it fits perfectly into that kind of pocket where the percussion could be. And I'll do the same this time, but turn it all on at once and watch how this supports the bounce and rhythm we've created with that main perk, rather than compete it with it. You ready? Supporting it. Then if I turn the final one on, let's compare that to the bounce over here. Let it roll into this section that hasn't been changed. Here. There isn't that kind of bounce coming from the main groove. Now, what have I changed to achieve this? Well, I took the main percussion, and what I want you to do, if you feel like you're kind of losing the groove like this, which is quite common in the tech house scene, what I want you to do is solo first, as I did earlier, your kick, clap, your open hats. Why is that all? Oh, that's why. Like this. Then add what you think is your main kind of percussive melody, which quite nicely, the person who projects this has called it main perk. Now we go through one by one, supporting that motif. So in this one, what I did is went into it. I went into the elements and I chopped out a hell of a lot, actually. What I did is just keep the notes that were working and what weren't. Like, for example, this note here is playing exactly the same time as one of the bongo hits in the main perk. So I don't want that. I don't want them to hit the same. I want the kind of main perk to take the lead. Then in the next one, I've gone ahead and took more out too. But this time what I did is I changed the start time of the loop. So it's better suited to the vibe of the main perk. You see, I've took most of it out and just allowed these first few chops to come through, but the start time starts here, watch. Let's play it with the track now. I found a pocket for it, rather than just letting layers and layers of percussion kind of bounce on top of one another. I found the pocket where it should sit. Finally, on this last one, again, I extended your loop out here to a 2-bar loop. You had it as a 1-bar loop. And if we look at the envelope, I've gone in again into the clip and I've kept just 2 notes. The reason I did this is because I wanted to call and respond. So if we listen to that on its own, with the rest of the track, let me higher it up so you can really hear that with the track. Whereas you had it like this, just definitely doesn't have the same vibe, right? Right. So think about this for a second. What I want you to do, and why do we do this? It actually sounds, maybe when you're listening to the loop, that this is better. Everything playing together. Maybe that's your style. But I want you to try and imagine now for a second, putting a bass line into each one of these projects. I simply want you to close your eyes and try and hum a melody out loud. So let's try and do that now. I can do it, but I feel limited. I feel kind of boxed in. There's not really many ideas that are flowing through my brain. But if I go to my version over here and try and close my eyes and think of a bass line, I can really feel the track bouncing and it's really inspiring me to put a great bass line in. So let's hear what else I hear in your project. So I understand why you've put this bass line in. It sounds okay. I'm going to drag this to the bottom where I'm working and just see what it sounds like with my new drums first. Let's see. If I play that with just your drums, there's no coherency between the drum kind of groove and melody that we just spent so long trying to perfect and the bass line. Again, it's not really sat in that pocket of groove where it can fit in. So give me 5 minutes and I will go ahead and try and do this and come back to you and show you what I made instead. Okay, so let's see what I ended up with. And don't judge it too harshly. I've only spent a couple of minutes here and it's only a raw sub. However, I want to talk you through a few techniques you can use to make your kind of bassline melody sit in that pocket we're talking about. So first of all, let's try it with, let's see what yours sounded like. With the kick as well. Just a bit all over the place. Okay, and mine. Okay, so what am I doing to write this melody? Well, here's where it all gets a little bit complicated. So your bass line doesn't sound terrible on its own, but watch when we play it with the vocal, the main vocal of the song. Nothing's talking to each other. So actually what I've done to write this bass line is a little bit of a strange thing. If I get to a point in the song where I'm like, okay, I really want this lead vocal, I want the vocal to be the priority, well, you need to then make it the priority. You can't have this mad crazy percussive groove, then this mad crazy vocal and this mad crazy bass line. Something's got to take the lead, something's got to be priority. So what I did to write this bass line is I've gone ahead and soloed it, and first I play my bass line with just the vocal and see if they're talking to each other. So you can hear that they're kind of rolling with each other with a kick. So I'm letting the vocal take control. Now what we're realizing in this track is that actually the percussion doesn't really go with that vocal. So you'd need to now work on the percussion as well. If that vocal is truly what you want to be in the track, everything needs to talk to it. Everything needs to be connected. So let's try with just your main elements, your kick, clap, open, hat. I'm not sure that bass line's perfectly in key just now, but you get the point for the method. Let's turn on your other stuff, like, let's turn the main percussion on. It's not terrible. It's not terrible. I'm just not sure that vocal fits perfectly with it. I would maybe be looking for a different vocal here if you really do want a vocal to take priority, but the other perch. Can you see how there's still a bit of a disconnect? So when we soloed the main vocal and the bass line, they're fine. So you now need to work backwards from the lead element, which is the vocal, get the bass line sat right with the vocal, then kind of go backwards rather than what it feels like you've done with a vocal here is just made a loop and stuck a vocal in rather than getting everything talking to that vocal. So if you're ever stuck like this and vocals don't seem to fit, it's because you need to work backwards from the vocal and not just throw them in later down the line, okay? Now, of course, this bass line that I used as an example is just an operator sub. It's nothing fancy, but if you'd like to know how to sound design a cool tech house bass line, you can watch this video up here next and I'll talk you through how to do it.